Hello, and welcome. This episode contains language, references to teen suicide, and adult thematic elements that, depending on your personal beliefs and parenting style, may not be suitable for children under the age of 12. With that in mind, as you ready your ears to participate in the story, I thank you for being here. Stay tuned after the episode for a deep dive into the story with me. Without further delay, this is Short Stories with Stefan, Episode 1, John's Place. Our house was right by the water, and on the weekends, we'd all be down by the beach playing and swimming. John was the best swimmer in his class. He was swimming with 8th graders when he was only 9. My brother was a far better swimmer than me. Stepping into my childhood home reminds me of this. My parents are out back cooking for the crowd. Some things never change. Dad is always cooking for people. Even after the accident, Dad cooked for the fucking funeral. There was Mom, standing next to him, looking like she could take over at any moment. But she never did. Or does. Walking down these hallways makes me want to cringe into non-existence, or injure my other hand. You'd think they would put up new pictures of me or John, but no. My dad does the cooking. My mom does the decorating. Neither have changed at all. Finally reaching the deck, I see my parents, moving past friends and family while using the need to get to my parents as an excuse to keep moving forward. That is, until a familiar arm grabs mine. "Eric?" says a voice both low and smooth, which can only belong to August Richards. "August?" I say it like a question, even though I would bet the lives of both my parents it is him. "Whoa, man. You look great. It's been too long. How are you?" I shudder for a moment. His touch is bittersweet. Today, it is more bitter. "I'm good, August. Look, I'll catch up with you in a sec. I really need to get to my parents." He lets go and nods, saying, "Of course, man. Totally get it. Been a while since you've been home. I'll see you later." My foolproof escape remains invaluable. I reach my mom at last. "Oh, sweetie, it's been too long since you've been home." She wraps her arms around me like she can read my mind about how bad I do not want to be there. "I know, Mom. Hey, Dad, what are you cooking?" My dad sets down his utensils like a soldier lays down a weapon to rest. "Get over here, my big city boy, and you know what this is." My dad loves like he speaks. Boisterous. He's the reason they stayed together afterward, and he held on like a promise that would not dissipate. "Of course, this is your famous backyard double-barrel wings. Even now, hating being here, making my dad smirk will always be like feeling the sun after a cold night." "You're damn right. We set up your old room for you. Where are your bags?" I am overcome by discomfort. "Dad, I told you guys that I was staying at a hotel nearby." My parents give me the look they always do when they know I'm irritated. "Oh, but sweetie, we thought you were only joking." I press my good hand to my forehead in an effort to rub out the irritation. "No, Mom, I really meant it," I spit out. "Hey, Corey, when do we get to eat the wings instead of only smelling them, eh?" Carl Jones has somehow gotten more loud and ever more annoying over the years, if that is even possible. "Oh, pipe down, Carl." My dad's tone is disarming but firm. "They're almost done. Look, Eric, just stay with us. It's dumb to waste money on a hotel room when you can stay here for free." My mother nods, as if it was that simple, as if I did not already weigh the pros and cons. The loud background noise of the party taking place in my childhood home is becoming less and less background and is now crawling into my line of focus. "Please, honey?" My mom is a lawyer, but usually her best argument is just to look helpless. I hate that. But that is only because it works. "Fine," I finally say. "I'll need to go grab my stuff from my car." I go around the side yard to avoid the crowd. My parents' house is huge, which only means to me that it holds more emptiness inside than smaller houses. Makes sense why the town would have their annual cookout to kick off the summer here. City Hall is more home than this place to my parents ever was. I climb the stairs, the same 7 steps squeaky. I ignore the pictures I know are still hanging on my right and see my old room. The door is closed, and that too has not changed in a long time. As soon as I get to the door, I realize that something is different. The handle is new, which is odd because nothing else in this house has changed one bit. I open the door, and it is not a room I enter. Certainly not my old room. And I am aware that it's been 10 years, but I have a vivid picture of what my room looked like. The walls here are bare, except for a few of my dad's movie posters. There's a queen mattress in the corner, which I assume is my old mattress, and then there are boxes, all pushed to one side of the room, making it feel smaller than it actually is. I walk over to the boxes, and they all read in big black Sharpie, "Memories." I open a box and pull out a baseball bat. I turn it over and see John inscribed on the handle. I look through the box, and it is all John's stuff. His pictures, his trophies, his life. I tear through each box, and with each one I feel rage like lava, brimming to the surface of what I can handle. I reach the last box, rip it open, and pull out a picture. A picture taken from that day. I'm standing with one arm around August and the other around John. I thought I had burned this picture. Destroyed it years ago. I should burn it now. I should burn all this shit. I should burn this whole fucking house down. Who do they think they are? I march back downstairs, noticing the pictures this time. Little League, school photos, birthdays, and more. I walk around the side yard and my parents see me coming this time. I must look like I'm an abominable snowman or on fire because their faces fall. I reach them. Are you guys fucking kidding me? Hey, you may be a man now, but that's no reason to talk to your parents that way. My dad snaps while not missing a beat on the grill. Honey, why are you upset? There she goes again, looking helpless, holding on to my dad's non-cooking arm. I start to speak but realize I'm starting to cry. I take a second, command the tears to remain at bay, and speak. My old room, if you can even call it that, is full of John's shit. My parents look at each other as if they'd forgotten that's where they really buried my brother. Then I realize that they actually have forgot. Oh my God, I finally sputter out. You actually forgot that that's where all his stuff was. My dad starts to speak, but I turn and head for my car. Shit, I forgot to take the side yard, and now I'm having to push through a crowd of people I'd like to forget, while also holding back the urge to yell myself into oblivion. A hand grabs my arm as I push through. Where are you going, man? August looks at me with a smile on his face and a drink in his hand. I feel my face start to smile, but my tongue wins the battle today. Don't fucking touch me, August. Ever. His face falls and darkens, and I see hurt and surprise ripple across it. I don't care. I just want to be in my car and on my way to the airport. It was a mistake to come here. Finally, in my car, I somehow hit every single red light in a town where I thought there were only 2 or 3. Turns out there are 5 before a major highway. I remember I forgot to give my eyes permission to cry. I grant them the courtesy now, and a levee breaks behind my tear ducts. Before I get onto the freeway, sitting at the last red light, which I'm considering running, I see the ocean. It pulls at me in an effort to comfort me, in a way only it can. Maybe it's the fact that my rage is now literally watered down by how sad I am now feeling, but I change lanes and head for the water. Then I see it, the Cliff of Landis, an 80-foot lookout point which seems to oversee the world. I park my car, wipe my eyes, put on my jacket, and then begin the climb through the trail to the top. When I reach it, I step up to the fence separating the edge from the hikers and tourists who visit this place. It is mere chance I am standing here. Prior to this moment, and the ocean's siren call, it was my full intention to return home, my actual home. But now I find myself asking a most dangerous question. Why? What's the point? Life is life. I know this now. I've known for a long time now. Only right now, in this moment, I believe it. And I look up to the sky to speak it. Just so you know, you sadistic mystery, I am jumping because I want to. I'm not afraid of anything or anyone, but I know it should have been me, and now it will be. My parents can finally have what they want, a room full of boxes, and a house full of nothing. I don't know why I wait for a response, but I do. And of course, all I can hear are the waves beating the rocks below like a meteor hitting the earth. Perhaps God speaks through waves, but I'm not listening. I take a deep breath, step over the fence, and hold the picture in my hand. I close my eyes and step. But I'm not falling. I'm not even moving. My jacket is tight against my body, and I realize I'm being pulled back over the fence onto the ground. Disoriented, I stand up and see an old man walking over to the lookout bench. I get up quickly. What the hell, man? The old man chuckles and fixes his thick black hair. What the hell indeed? Though I'm not certain we are talking about the same thing. I turn to head back to the cliff. You don't want to do that, he says. Yes, I do. And who the hell are you? He touches his hand to his chin and says, Oh, you do? Tell me, why are you wearing a jacket? I look at my jacket. What are you talking about? Are you crazy or something? He crosses his leg and leans back. Tell me, what person who is planning to kill himself by means of cliff jumping wears his jacket? Were you planning on it being cold when you hit the rocks dead? This suggestion both perplexes me and pisses me off at the same time. Then it hits me. I was in the middle of talking to God. Then this guy shows up. Oh shit. Are you God? The man lets out a roaring laugh, and this too pisses me off, and confirms that he must be God, since only God would laugh at me in this moment. After wiping a few tears away, he says, "Son, if I'm God, then you're better off jumping than staying here. But thankfully, I am not. And I'd like it if you sat down because I don't think I have enough wind left in me to catch you again." He has a presence that invites me in a specific way, like when you learn to walk and fall into a parent's arms. At this moment, he feels safe. After the adrenaline wears off, my tears dry up, and my anger curbs, I discover I'm exhausted. "What's your name?" The old man is looking at me now, sitting on my right. "Eric. My name is Eric. Who are you?" The man grins. "I thought it might be you. You probably don't recognize me without the beard and short hair, but it's me, Mr. Grinish." My jaw drops, because I haven't seen Mr. Grinish since the day of the accident. "How come you're not down at the party? I'm pretty sure the entire town is down there." "I haven't seen this man since I was 17. Now I am 33, and he is still the kindest person in this town." "Why aren't you?" I retort. He exhales and says, "Because this is the only day each year when absolutely nobody is up here, because they're all down at the party." "Tell me, how is it you hurt your hand? You tried this before but weren't high up enough?" His blunt question catches me off guard, but I recover and say, No. I got angry and punched a hole in my wall. Would have been fine, except that behind the wall where I punched was a stud, and the doctor said it was like punching concrete with all my force. Broke my arm and my hand in 2 places." He looks at me. "You ever consider buying a punching bag?" he says. It wasn't exactly a planned punching endeavor. He nods. "I see. What prompted this spur-of-the-moment knockout?" I cross my arms. I feel better talking about it with my arms crossed. "My girlfriend broke up with me." He uncrosses and crosses his leg. "Girlfriend? But I thought you were gay?" I cut him off. "Nope." Then I remember. I remember where Mr. Grinish found me the day of the accident, what I was doing, and who I was with. "I apologize. I didn't mean to offend you." I know he didn't, so I cross my arms the other way. No, it's fine. I don't care." "You don't, huh?" "No, I don't." Then there is silence. It feels like we've been sitting here for hours. I look down at my watch in a secretive manner, and it reveals we've been sitting on this bench looking out at the endless ocean for only about 20 minutes. Finally, I say, "Well, this has been great, Mr. Grinish, and I don't really know what to say about you saving me, but could you not tell anyone about that? I'd really appreciate it. Not that it matters. I'll never come back to this place again." He doesn't acknowledge anything I say. He doesn't even move. "Mr. Grinish? Are you all right?" Not a moment goes by where I don't think about that day, he finally says. "What? Tell me, do your parents still call it an accident?" He looks at me after he says this, like he's searching my eyes for something. Something I can't see. Something I'm not even sure I can feel. "Yeah, they do." I hang my head after this. After how many times they've called it that, I started saying it too. It makes it all easier if it was an accident. Families can recover from accidents. It is harder to remain whole when a part of your family body decides to amputate itself. That's what it felt like when John killed himself. Like he was my right arm, and he ripped himself off. "Makes sense why you left. Wouldn't you?" I say. "No, I don't leave." "Obviously, it wasn't your brother," I say. "I know. Worse, he was my favorite student." He says this and looks away. Looks somewhere distant, somewhere very far away. "Not the same thing," I say. "He wasn't going to baseball practice on Thursdays." "What?" "Your brother. He would tell your folks he was at baseball for extra batting practice. But he'd come to my house and eat dinner with my wife and I." I'm stunned. I remember that John was Mr. Grinish's favorite student, but this? I didn't know this. "He said he was going to tell your parents. My wife and I said he showed great courage by telling them the truth. God, he was just a child, for Christ's sake." "He never told my parents. I was the only person who knew." I sat up straighter, agitated by this new information. 3 days before he jumped from right where you were about to, he told your parents." He was looking at me now. Tears were gathering themselves in his eyes. This is the first time I notice his wrinkles. They are like road maps to and from smiles, laughter, and sadness past. What did my parents say? They told him that he was too young to know, that they would send him away if he kept this up, this act, as they called it. He said he remained calm, then got on his bike and rode to my house. When my wife opened the door, she didn't even get a hello out of her mouth before he soaked the floor with wild tears. It took us almost 20 minutes to calm him down before we got the whole story. I was raging mad. I told him I was going to talk to his parents that night. I was halfway out the door when my wife stopped me. What about the beach? Why were you there that day? I'm thirsty for the whole story now. Because I saw him. I saw him that day and he gave me a hug and said thank you. When I asked him if everything was all right, he said yes, but I knew otherwise. I drove to the beach later that day, but when I pulled up, I was too late. That was when you found me in August, I say, looking down. Is that the first time you've said that out loud? Yeah. Feel good? Feels heavy. Who you are should not be a burden, Eric. Who you are is a gift. At this, I begin to tear up again. It's raw. You know, I was talking to God before you got here. You believe that? I get out the last part in between sniffles. Pretty fucking stupid, right? If I thought some God was up there, I'd probably be even more fucked up today. He smiles at this, and his wrinkles cup his face like a hand to a warm mug on a winter's night. It is truly more difficult to think God into our existence. It is far more precious to feel God. That is why I sit here, he says. You sit here to feel God, I say? No. I sit here to remind myself what God can feel like, if I let him. How do you know it's a him, I say? I don't. All I know is that your brother was the closest thing to seeing the face of God I'd ever witnessed, and I was blind to it until I met him. After he died, I promised to love God the best way I knew how. How was that, I ask, wiping away tears still. By finding other kids like your brother and giving them refuge, the same way your brother sought refuge in my home. He pauses for a second, leans forward and takes in a deep breath. He told me about you in August, made me promise to never say anything. I kept that promise. I ignored this confession. He was the best brother in the world. No one was like him. He was special. I feel the tears begin to charge forward again, but I stop them, and they well up in my throat. He loved you, Eric. More than anything. He trusted and loved you. I can't hold them back, though. My tears have the upper hand today, and they fall out of my body like marbles being poured onto the floor. I miss him, I finally sputter out. There are others like him, you know? Beautiful and kind, just like John. I nod. I know. There's a pause. A long one. And then Mr. Grinish stands up and reaches into his pocket. Eric, I know you are headed out of town, but here. He hands me a card. I could use some help from a person like you. Someone who understands what God really looks like. Not like what we think he does. I never said anything about believing in God. I never said anything about asking you to. Oh, okay. Sorry, I say, a little embarrassed. Don't apologize. You've done nothing wrong. Just stop by the shelter sometime. We could always use a helping hand. But my arm and hand are broken, I say. I said hand, Eric, not hands. If everyone helped with one hand, then that'd be enough. He touches my face, and the wrinkles speak to me again, this time in a voice which assures me of his intention. Okay, I'll stop by. Good, he says, and turns to leave. Wait, where are you going? I've got to get back to it. There's much work that still needs to be done. I trust I can leave you here now? Yes. And Mr. Grinish, thank you. No, Eric. Thank you for loving your brother the way you did. He was lucky to have you. He walks away down the trail. I continue to look out over the endless ocean and imagine John swimming somewhere, free to be who he was, free to swim wherever he wished. I look down at the card and it has an address. I hike down the trail and get into my car and drive to the location. It's a big warehouse about 5 minutes outside of town. It is painted in vibrant blues and greens and reds and yellows. I feel like I drove into a sunset or a rainbow. I pull up to the guard at the gate and say Mr. Grinish asked me to come. He smiles a huge smile, though I am unsure why, and then asks me to sign in. I do, and then drive up to the main lot. Kids are playing on the nearby basketball court. Some are drawing on the concrete. Others are sitting and talking with one another. I get out of my car and find the front office, where a woman is sitting behind a desk wearing a light blue shirt with a purple scarf. Hello, I say. I'd like to see Mr. Grinish. Here. I give her the card. She examines it and then looks up at me with confusion across her face. Come this way, please. She gets up from behind her desk and I follow her. We walk down a long, beautiful hallway full of photos of kids playing games. We reach another door, a blue door, and she knocks. Mrs. Grinish answers, and her wrinkles tell the same stories her husband did to me today. Mrs. Grinish, this man says your husband sent him to us, and he had this on him. She hands Mrs. Grinish the card. She examines it and then says, Thank you, Helen. Please, young man, come in. Helen turns and heads back down the hallway. I step into Mrs. Grinish's office and she directs me to a chair. Please sit. After pouring us both a cup of tea, which I did not ask for, but I'm glad to have, she clears her throat and says, "What did my husband tell you?" Perplexed by this question, I say, he told me that he could use a little help around here." "Well, that's the truth," she says, smiling and sipping her tea. "Is he around? I'd like to ask him what he had in mind." "It would seem that my husband is always around." And she stares at a photo on the wall. I follow her eyes to a picture of Mr. Grinish and my brother. "Eric, it is beyond lovely to finally meet you. Your brother told us so much about you." "You know me?" "From the moment I saw you." "Well, will your husband be joining us anytime soon?" "Hard to say. Charles is a man led by his spirit. Sometimes he's here, sometimes he's not." "I'm sorry, but are you saying he doesn't work here?" "The business card that my husband gave you, when did he give it to you?" "Today," I say. He helped me today. Then he handed me this card and asked me to come here to help. If I'm not needed, it's okay. I was headed out of town anyway." "Eric," her fingers give the card a gentle caress. "We've not given out this card in over 5 years. These are my husband's first business cards before we changed the logo and name. Maybe he holds on to them for nostalgia?" "He had his reasons, I'm sure," she says. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Grinish, but did you say had?" "Yes, Eric." She pauses. "My husband died 2 years ago today from a heart attack." "That's not possible. I saw him less than an hour ago." "What is and is not possible is not for me to know, but yes, he is dead. Clearly, though, he is not gone." My mind spins. My heart rate is increasing, and I feel sweat building on my neck. "I can see you are becoming anxious at this news, but please, don't think this out of reality. Whatever happened to you was specifically for you. If you saw my husband, then I believe you. And if he said to come here, then you're in the right place." I take a deep breath, then say, "Okay, this has been a crazy day." "That's good," she says. I think I'd like to stay here, if that's all right." "Honey, we've been waiting for you a long time. Stay as long as you'd like." I don't think it's a coincidence that we are also in dire need of a new night leader. What is a night leader? Someone who works through the night to be available when a child is having a crisis. What kind of crisis? "I think you know," she says. "Oh, I see. Well, I'll need a place to stay." The position comes with free room and board and a modest salary due to a government grant we were issued last year. She stands up and hands me a key and some paper. "The key is to your apartment, and this is the hiring paperwork. Take it back to your new place and look it over." I'm shocked at how fast this is all happening, yet I feel in a deep part of me this is right. This is where I'm supposed to be. "Okay," I say. "Mrs. Grinish?" "Yes." "My brother John. Um, I'm really glad he had you guys." "Eric." She cups my face with her hand, and it's warm from holding her tea. "Your brother was lucky because he had you. Charles and I could never have children, and in that respect, your brother gave us a great gift by the simple fact of wanting to be in our lives. Sometimes there's nothing we can do except love those who are too afraid to ask for it." With her touch, the tears are beginning to reappear. She notices. "It's okay, sweet boy," she says. "Your brother John loved you more than anyone else in the world." I lose it at this, and she holds me. She just holds me. And I realize I've never been held like this. Not by my mother after John, not by my dad after John, and not by anyone I've dated. This is an embrace from someone who understands absolutely. After a few minutes, I release myself from the embrace and wipe my eyes. She walks with me outside to my new apartment, and along the way, I meet a few of the staff and residents. The spirit of this place is warm and full of joy and hope. It all feels like a dream. When we get to my new apartment, I step in and thank Mrs. Grinish again, promising to have the paperwork back to her in a couple of hours. Before she closes the door, I ask, "Mrs. Grinish?" "Yes, dear." This may be a dumb question, but I haven't asked what this place is actually called, and I didn't see any signs coming in. Mrs. Grinish smiles and says, "Not a dumb question at all. We decided to name this shelter John's Place." And with that, she turns and leaves. I walk over to an empty picture frame and feel for the picture in my pocket. I place the photo in the frame and set it on the mantle. There's no boxes here, no emptiness, no denial. But there is hope and beauty and love, because this is John's place. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to that story. I love this story, and welcome to After the Story with me, Stefan. John's Place is a story I started writing back in 2020. I actually finished it, I think, in mid-2020 because I had launched this podcast back then. I was not in a good headspace to maintain a podcast such as this that requires not only creativity, but consistency. And back in 2020, not just myself, I know everybody was in a tough spot. I was just starting to have some very intense mental health issues, which is scary, when you think about it. I look back at that time and I'm truly thankful for the people in my corner who care about me, who didn't give up on me, who love me unconditionally and with open compassion. And keeping that in mind, and the theme that I hope was conveyed in this story is that compassion is something that truly is underappreciated and I don't think employed nearly enough. In the story, we see Mr. Greenwich, who is this figure, him and his wife, are these figures of almost surrogate parents. And the gift that they gave to John was, unparalleled. And the saddest part of the story is, of course, how the parents react. And I wish that this story wasn't so topical. I wish that it wasn't so relevant. A great resource if you want to go and learn more about suicide and suicide prevention, especially among LGBTQIA plus youth, you can go to thetrevorproject.org. They have a lot of great resources, a lot of great work. They also have some great statistics, and I'm going to read those statistics to you right now. This can be found at thetrevorproject.org. And these are just some things that were top of mind as I was writing the story and kind of remain top of mind for someone like myself who wants to continue to grow and better understand what it means to be whole and complete and to live a life that is full and rich and purposeful. So keeping that in mind, these are the top line statistics from thetrevorproject.org in regards to mental health, suicide, and suicide prevention among LGBTQIA plus youth. So here they are. Here we go. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people aged 10 to 24. And lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning LGBTQIA plus youth are at significantly increased risk. LGBTQIA plus youth are more than 4 times as likely to attempt suicide than their peers. The Trevor Project estimates that more than 1.8 million LGBTQIA plus youth aged 13 to 24 seriously consider suicide each year in the US, and at least one attempts suicide every 45 seconds. The Trevor Project's 2022 National Survey on LGBTQIA plus youth mental health found that 45% of LGBTQIA plus youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, including more than half of transgender and non-binary youth. Now, keeping those statistics at the front of the conversation, what can we do? What can you specifically do to be helpful, to be a resource to these kids and young adults who are really struggling? Well, I think the first thing that you can do is be compassionate and be affirming. It is really scary when somebody who fits in a box that you've had them in for a long time. So, for example, like your child. You know your child as your little boy or your little girl, or in your mind, your heterosexual little boy, your heterosexual little girl. And as they start to grow and come into their own, they might not fit that mold. They might spread their wings a little bit and become something totally unexpected, something that you didn't see coming. And when we see something unexpected, when something so novel becomes apparent, especially in our inner circle, in our family units, even more so, it can be really, really scary. I think about not just something as extreme as LGBTQIA plus youth mental health, something as kind of minor as changing careers. For example, if your whole life your mom was a lawyer and when you're 14, 15, she decides she wants to be a horticulturist, or she wants to go work for immigration law down in Southern California and wants to move you guys. These are examples of when people decide that they actually want to live a different life and that they're more full and more fulfilled with this new journey. Now, that's a very small example. The bigger examples are these kids who are growing up in the age of social media, which is reinforcing kind of this narrative of I have to have my image figured out by a certain point. And we already we already struggle as a culture with what we perceive and how we feel perceived by others. It's really hard to remain mindful and be okay in your own body most of the time for people who feel kind of on edge and anybody who feels insecure. So again, the first thing you can do is be compassionate and be affirming. And the second thing you can do is to get support for yourself. If your child or a child in your circle is LGBTQIA+, if they are transgender, if they are gay, if they are questioning, if they're unsure, no one is expecting you to have all the answers. No one is expecting you to be the magic 8-ball that gives a clear direction of what to do next. Get help. There are support groups, there are parental groups, there are people who are willing to walk alongside you in this journey. Because I think a lot of the backlash from some communities are coming from a lack of support within those communities. If your son comes out and says, hey, actually, I feel like in my body, I'm a woman, I'm a girl, I don't feel safe, I don't feel comfortable in this male body, that can be really scary. And you might not have the best answer to say. You might not even say the right thing in that moment. But that moment is not lost forever. Still, it is your child. And I guess that's what I really wanted to communicate with this story is don't lose sight of the fact that it's your child. Don't get lost in the weeds of what is culturally appropriate, what's topical, or what you think might be the right thing to do. Seek help. Get some external wisdom. See what the next steps could be. And it's important to remember that LGBTQIA+ people have always been around. They are always a part of our culture. They are a part of our evolution, and they are a part of the way we view ourselves in the world. They're not freaks of nature. They're not biological abnormalities. They're not these outsiders that can't be welcomed to the table. No, they've always been at the table, and they deserve a seat at the table. And I hope that this story lays out how important it is to prepare a seat at your table for whatever the child is going through or the young adult is going through. And all that to say, I really hope you enjoyed this story. It's one of my faves. I love the characters and I love the world that it exists in. And who knows, maybe one day I will make it into a movie because I think it has potential. So, or if somebody else wants to make it into a movie and you're listening, go for it. You have my permission if you email me. But anyway, thank you again, everybody, for joining me and for participating, not even just in the story, but in this part, talking about the story. I hope that you gained some value, and I definitely gained value from you listening. So I appreciate you once again. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time on Short Stories with Stefan. Bye-bye.